पाकिस्तान काजी फायज ईसा साहब से कि वो आए अपने ख्यालात का इज़हार। काजी फायज।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, why am I late? I generally try to be on time when functions start, but today I'll tell you the reasons. There are two. One is a person, one is my distinguished colleague, Justice Naeem Akhtar. He's one of the causes for me being late because he told me कि आपकी हजामत पहले हो फिर आप आइएगा. So I accepted the directive and went to have my haircut. But when I reached there was only one barber, and the gentleman was doing a facial, which took forever. So these are the two reasons why I am late. Otherwise, I would have been on time. In fact, I would have come straight from my chambers here. Let me first of all acknowledge and thank the Pakistan Bar Council, its Vice Chairman, Mr. Farooq H. Naik, who I have known since I started practice, and his distinguished committee members, and the Supreme Court Bar Association of Pakistan, and its very distinguished president, Mr. Shahzad Shaukat, who I did not know before I came here, and the extremely polite, in fact, both of them are very polite. I don't know who wins the politeness contest amongst the president and Sayyid Ali Imran. You can be the jury of such politeness. Rarely a receding quality in judges and lawyers. So we must compliment and recognize that. And I hope they have set a pattern for others to follow. Farooq Naik Sahib is also an extremely polite person. So we have the two lawyers' bodies being headed by very polite people. Unfortunately, the Chief Justice may not be so polite. I must also acknowledge Justice Yahya Afridi, who I did not know, but got to know him. And I think what will tell you a lot about Justice Yahya Afridi was, I was watching one of these talk shows, and it was a full bench case. I won't tell you the details about the case. So all of the journalists were giving their opinions. The Chief Justice will do this. He will do this. He will do this. He will do this. But nobody mentioned Justice Yahya Afridi. So one asked him, what will Justice Yahya Afridi do? He said, that nobody knows. But then he added, but whatever he does will be according to the Constitution and the law. So he's a level above us. You can read us, you can't read him. But he always does according to the Constitution and law, which may be we don't do. That's what was implied in that talk. I must also acknowledge my distinguished colleagues who are here, who have graced the occasion and have honored me, and the very honorable Chief Justices of the provinces. And I think we have broken from tradition by naming everyone, which used to take up quite unnecessary amount of time. And I'm not going to do that because each and every one of you is a very distinguished person for me. It's been quite a ride for me. I have been working since I did my bar 1982. So the 42 years of continuous work. Always took a month vacations, but since I've been here, I've not taken a vacation for quite some time now, much to the disappointment, if not anger, of my wife. So it started 42 years is coming to a close, and I think if I deserve a vacation. I tried my best. As they say, I was thrown into the deep end when I was appointed the Chief Justice of Balochistan with 0 days of experience. Worked almost more than a month alone. And very soon I was joined with other very distinguished judges, 2 of whom are now here in the Supreme Court, and appointments were made. I may add, and I say that with some pride, that all my nominations as of judges to the Balochistan High Court were accepted, and there was 0 casualty rate. Everyone was confirmed later on as well. This is not because of my qualities, it is because of the qualities in those judges. Balochistan also had the distinction, everybody somehow calls us Pasmanda Suba, backward province. Shahzad Saukat Sahab, you finally have a Chief Justice, the Lady Chief Justice. We beat you to it much, we have had one much earlier than you. So Justice Tahira Safdar was the first Chief Justice of Balochistan. And I'm glad that Punjab is catching up with Balochistan finally. I also take some pride in the fact that I recommended Justice Musrat Hilali as a judge of the Supreme Court. I must also acknowledge that I opposed my own partner to be elevated to the Supreme Court, Justice Aisha Malik, not because there was anything lacking in her, but because she was picked out of term without considering those senior to her. So I was consistent in that. Similarly, I had opposed Justice Samiruddin Khan, not for any reason, but for the very same reason that, yes, you may appoint 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th judge, provided you've considered those earlier to them. The discretion, the absolute, the total, the dictatorial, if I may use the word discretion, in the Chief Justice of putting a name forward and either you accept or you reject was, I think, in my opinion, others may think differently, was not fair. It was not fair to those who were bypassed because it would instill grievances in them and even doubts in them of their own ability. I was not good enough. And doubt undermines performance. Some may not be even feel aggrieved by it, but may then start doubting their own ability. And why was I not considered? So this I did not do. We have at the rostrum the Chief Justice of Lahore High Court, who was number 3 in seniority. But it is not because I had picked her out of turn from number 3. We had, as it was proposed in the draft rules jointly drafted by Justice Syed Mansoor Ali Shah and Justice Manzoor Malik, that the 3 names should be put up. So we put up the 3 names, and through a democratic, fair process, the Justice Malik won as opposed to the others. And the same principle was also followed in the Sindh High Court. We put forward the 3 names, but since the very first name was approved, we did not have to go down to 2nd and 3rd. So I think that is as far people can still object. Everyone can have different views, but the question is: was everything done transparently? Was it not? That is for you all to determine. It's not for me to say. I'm here to say why I did it, whether I did it correctly or not. It's for you. You are now my judge, whether I did so rightly or wrongly. The Supreme Court had stopped having full court meetings for, I think, about 4 years was the last one before I became Chief Justice. My first day in office was holding a full court meeting, but my first act in the Supreme Court was to appoint the registrar, and again I chose a lady and from Punjab, where the ladies have not been seriously considered on merit, and I compliment her for coming here and for doing a very good job. So I compliment her performance. The next act was to, after the full court meeting, was the first agenda on the meeting was should we live broadcast, and it was carried out through a democratic process. Some of my distinguished colleagues did not want it. I and the majority did, so we went for live broadcast. The first broadcast was by PTV because we didn't have the facilities. Thereafter, we were using our own, whatever, not very special equipment, but better equipment is on its way to live broadcast the case, the famous case of considering the Supreme Court Practice and Procedure Act of 1923. The Act did a number of things, and one of them was to reduce the arbitrariness, the absolute power of the Chief Justice in the constitution of benches, which I did away with. It was a 10-5 majority judgment. We were in the majority. And the only thing which did not pass muster was that the retrospective grant of appeal under 184(3). There we lost by one vote, and you can guess who that one person was. The hearing of the case took place in a transparent manner. Everybody gave their own decisions. The master of the roles, master of the roster, or master of the roles concept was broken. Whether it was a good thing or bad thing, that's for you to judge. The constitution of making special benches for cases was done away with. Whatever bench was sitting would hear the case, unless it was naturally a review petition or a larger bench. So that was, if one bench is hearing, it will hear it. The same case, 3 judges were not picked from 3 different benches, and the bench is broken. A particular time was set at 11:30 as opposed to 1:30 or 1 o'clock for hearing of larger bench cases, because frankly by that time a judge's performance, if not the lawyers, diminishes from what it should be. So that was done to, I don't know if that worked or not, but it is working, and now we have the baton will be passed on to Justice C.I. Afridi and what he thinks how best to proceed further. The other thing which was done was no pick and choose in the fixation of benches. Previously, the practice was that on every Thursday, the cause list of the next week would be presented to the Chief Justice, who would not just determine the benches, but would also determine the cases to be heard by that bench. Since my appointment as Chief Justice, I never once saw the proposed cause list. This was left entirely with the registrar. The committee now formed after the upholding of the Supreme Court Practice and Procedure Act gave general directions to the registrar, which was, the general principle was first in, first out. There were, of course, exceptions, bail matters, short sentences, family matters, or where the law prescribes early hearing. There are certain laws which prescribe early hearings. So these kind of, or when urgent application has been moved and granted by the court for the stated urgency in the matter. I discovered that the appeals and petitions, and I think the province which suffered most was Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. They were the oldest. So I really, if you've seen my roster for the last few months, me and my colleagues on the bench, we focused on them, and very soon we have eroded many number of years the old matters pending. The another malaise, I would say, and I think that a fault lies in us as well, that the distinction which the Constitution places between a civil appeal and a criminal appeal, and a civil petition for leave to appeal and a criminal petition for leave to appeal has been lost over the years, and both are virtually heard and treated as the same. I think that the Constitution mandates a difference, and the strange part of the matter is that what is a right, that is an appeal, in a civil appeal, you have to file within 30 days, and what is as of discretion of the bench hearing the case, for that the limitation period was 60 days. I had proposed that they should be made the same. Before I became the Chief Justice, many things have been left undone. Maybe when I leave, this can be attended to, and it requires simply a change in the rules. It does not require any legislation or amendment to the Constitution. The Constitution does not, if at all, the Constitution stipulates a distinction between matters to be filed as of right and those which are not to be filed as of right. I don't want to sound as if I am in any manner saying this, that I'm doing something wonderful, but the law mandates 16 judges plus one Chief Justice in the Supreme Court. The law was not being followed by the Supreme Court itself. There were vacancies. Vacancies do occur. They can occur on retirement, which you know when it's coming. It can happen upon a resignation. It can happen upon a removal, or it can happen upon death. But I don't see any reason why there should be vacancies in the Supreme Court when the law mandates a certain number of judges. These vacancies were filled in the Supreme Court. We had a full court in most of my tenure. And having filled the court, we still were not able to cope with the large number of pending cases. So it was agreed and discussed that we should appoint ad hoc judges, and we have two very distinguished senior judges of the Supreme Court as ad hoc judges, which I'm sure all of you are benefiting from their expertise and the manner in which they proceed with cases. Another constitutional body which was disregarded was the Shariat Appellate Bench of the Supreme Court, because there was a judge missing. Dr. Qibla Ayaz, a very distinguished scholar, former head of the Council of Islamic Ideology, was appointed as its member. I headed the bench myself, which this bench had not sat together for the last about 4 years. We attended to a lot of criminal cases that were pending, and the bench has been, the committee has constituted the bench, and I'm sure it will continue working. The other body, the other constitutional body which had not worked as it should have, was the Supreme Judicial Council. Now, this is a matter, sensitive matter. I have the Supreme Judicial Council was activated. Again, the principle of first in, first out complaint was followed. Not picked out one complaint. We attended to, I don't know, about 30, 32 complaints. The procedure as prescribed was followed. First, the complaint is sent to a judge who submits his report. Then the others. The rules, I found them to be somewhat strange, because the Chief Justice himself could not attend to the complaint. It said one of the other judges of the Supreme Judicial Council. So maybe that is something that can be looked upon and rectified. I had the unpleasant experience of presiding over the Supreme Judicial Council for the removal of a Supreme Court judge. That was done on his request in open court. Need not say anything further about that. The other thing which was done was try to abide, as I mentioned earlier, with the seniority principle of elevation to the Supreme Court. Consider everyone, and then whatever the Judicial Commission of Pakistan considers to be the most appropriate candidate to be elevated does that, and the same principle to be abided in the High Court for the Chief Justice. That was done. Uh, and we also considered those judges who were categorized as having been bypassed. I don't think this was a fair description of those judges. You would be bypassed if you were considered. If you have not been considered, how can it be stated that you were bypassed? So that was the discussion of the Chief Justice. He picked one name, the others were not considered. So to call them they were bypassed or they were not competent or fit enough was not fair. So that was done, and we have distinguished colleagues today here who may have been aggrieved earlier. The committee was there was a great demand from all of you, most of all, and I was also not satisfied with the rules of the Judicial Commission of Pakistan. So the committee was constituted to amend these rules, as I mentioned, and the draft was prepared, but then the meetings, as you know, could not take place. That's a long story about that, which you know, and I don't need to repeat myself. But one thing, and I'm sure there are a lot of grievances regarding that, I never met a single lawyer in chamber who was not an elected representative of a bar, except one. So I would meet the president, the bar council member, the president of Lausanne Bar Association, and I did not accept one, and I regretted having met that. He was a friend, and he had come for Karachi, and he'd been mentioning that I wanted to call upon you. Incidentally, the day he called, my wife was sitting there, as she often used to come over to drag me out to take me for a walk. And he, in a roundabout way, wanted to know that if I am actually retiring on the 25th of October, and my wife had a phone with her, and she herself put it up like this and said, and she has a counter on that, says freedom, and the 25th was, every day it goes down the counter, it would go in reverse. So quite often she would say 360 days left, 240 days left, 5, whatever the days are. And she showed that, but sometimes people just don't believe anything that is said. And if you say it, they disbelieve you even more. So I don't know whether it's good to say things or not to say things. Now every word that you utter, you have to be so careful. Everybody has a mobile camera, and then we have those, and we should say it, the peddlers of lies. There is no other word for them. A lie is a lie. What I found so strange was everybody was commenting upon me, but nobody was asking me. Someone can ask me, simply pick up the phone, or those people who know me, that what is happening. So peddling lies has become quite fashionable. Societies will not survive on lies. That's a given. I have repeatedly said, please object to my judgments, please criticize my judgment, please take it to the cleaners, my judgment, but don't tell lies, and have a distinction between the person and the judgment. You may not like me, you might, or vice versa, you may, so it should be irrelevant unless it's tied up, and I don't see why it should be tied up at all. So this business must stop. And if I may also criticize, since I'm going away, and my daughter would say, Baba, who did you Baba, aapne aaj kisko upset kiya? So let me upset all of you as well, or try to do so as well. When I joined the profession, like I mentioned, Mr. Farooq Naik, who is here, lawyers would keep their political politics away from the profession. In Karachi, there was a party which would never lose an election, but an affiliation with that party would not get you elected either. So that was, I practiced mostly in the Sindh High Court. There were big names who came to court, Mr. Kamal Asfar, Mr. Hafiz Pirzada, but they would always, in court, they would never bring their politics to the rostrum or at all. And they were known as lawyers if they were. And so this distinction we are losing. I'm happy about this division in the lawyers. Now people don't contest. I remember some election. I've never in my life stood for an election, so I probably am not the right person to say this. The election time would come and this person would say, please vote for me. And I said, why? And he just blanked out. Where are the speeches by lawyers? Where are the speeches by the presidents? Is it all a question of dinners now and tea parties? How much you can spend? I mean, the Bar Council and the Bar Association should prohibit spending. Have a speech. This is my mandate. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to achieve. What is this business of groups? Hey, okay, you can have a group, but for everything, I mean, the candidate may be better in the other group, but you have to vote for your own group. So I can now say this because I'm in no man's land, neither a judge, no lawyer I can't be. So the distinguished members on the rostrum will not be able to say this. So I said I have to try to upset the president and the secretary and cabinet today as well. And if you think they are competent, they are representing the law body. Well, why this division amongst lawyers? If it's an unconstitutional act, if judges' performance is not good, that's the issue which concerns lawyers. Why should you be in a particular group or in a particular? You by all means. The founder of this nation, my own father, was in politics, but I never remember. He was senior to Yahya Bakhtiar, but Yahya Bakhtiar was a very distinguished lawyer, Attorney General of Pakistan, but he never brought politics to the rostrum. Yes, everybody knew who they were and their political affiliations. In Balochistan, we had the late Mr. Habib Jalib. I don't know if you all know him or not, and he was the General Secretary of the Balochistan National Party from Balochistan. But in court, he was always a professional, no politics. And sometimes it was, it was very refreshing. If we can revert back to those days when you would gauge the competence of the lawyer as opposed to the group he's affiliated with, I think you'll be doing a service to your own community. The other thing which we did in Balochistan, which was the first, I don't know if it's done in Punjab or elsewhere, was when the elections were taking place, I had a meeting with all the representatives. I said, you will not put up a single poster anywhere. And we gave them a whole notice board. You could put anything there, and we gave certain things and nothing to be pasted. And they honored their commitment. It was not extracted, and everybody, if you make a level playing field with the same rules, everybody accepts it. But if somebody does, the other one has to do. Oh, उसने तो शेरेटन में खाना किया, तो उसको तो पता इधर करना है, तो उसने 1 करोड़ खर्च किया, तो 2 करोड़ खर्च करना है. Meaning money and politics, the legal profession, I think this should be completely, you should never vote for a person who, why is he inviting you for dinner? I don't see why a person should be invited for dinner if he's contesting elections. He is doing you a service, not you serving him. Is he buying your vote? You may not like my saying so. It is, previously people have requested, please stand for election. And he would say, no, my practice would suffer. I can't go around the country. I'll have to spend a lot of money. And now the people, it's the other way around. I don't know. The politics of the bar should be very different from the politics or real politics of members National Assembly and Provincial Assembly. That's their domain. I mean, consider this my advice, or you can feel aggrieved by it and not vote for me as president of the Pakistan Supreme Court Bar Association or the vice chairman of the Pakistan Bar Council. So I am saved since I can't stand for either position. A few other things I just wanted to mention, which may not have been stated or you may not know. I try to institutionalize not only the legal community, and I said whoever's elected representative, I will hear them and talk to them and hear what they're saying. If someone would come, oh, this problem, I said, go and tell your elected representative, he'll tell me. Don't please come to me. The journalists, the Supreme Court, we try to raise the status of the Press Association of the Supreme Court. As an association, I would meet them, not as individuals. So as an institution, I met them, attended the meetings. I also started something new, and these meetings always were with whoever was my senior puisne judge, was with the law officers and prosecutors, because we must realize that the biggest litigant in Pakistan are the governments, the federal and the provincial governments. So you must have competent, and people say, you would get angry. I said, yes, we should all get angry if the Advocate General or someone from his office or the Attorney General or someone from his office is not performing well, because we are all paying a salary. How a lawyer's performance is, he's accountable to his client. So that should be the difference. Yes, of course, these are all political posts, but it does not mean that you sacrifice competence at the altar and get anyone who can't even stand up in court and articulate an argument. The other thing which I may criticize myself even is the misuse of language. Either we should speak and make a complete sentence in Urdu or in English. I'm good with either. I said, please argue one way, but don't make 3 words in Urdu and 3 words in English. And both the languages suffer as a result, and it does not look good outside as well. Fine, you at least say a complete sentence in one language. This is another criticism. I was nominated by the former Chief Justice to be on the enrollment committee of the Pakistan Bar Council for seeing if lawyers met the requirement to be made advocates of the Supreme Court. And Syed Qalbi Hassan Saab was throughout on these meetings. I worked with Mr. Boon Saab, and I worked with a few other friends, but throughout I think Syed Qalbi Hassan was with us, and we spent not part-time on this important function. We spent full days, and I went to all the provinces and brought down the pendency in Balochistan to 0 and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to 0. The pendency applications pending in Sindh were brought down but not finished. And in Lahore, we tried to spend the largest amount of time but still could not finish the pending applications. I think we considered about 1,100 applications and enrolled those who we thought were fit and competent. Access to information is another thing. You should get into the habit of asking us. There is an access to information. It's a fundamental right of the Constitution, which no lawyer uses, no journalist uses. This has happened. Who told you? I know. हमारे क्या वो ज़राए ने बताया. We write a letter, we'll tell you, officially we'll tell you an answer. Did this happen or not happen? All sorts of speculation. Then on the basis of speculation, lies start and attacks start. But at least finish the first part of it, ascertain whether it's factually correct. If you don't even believe the reply, at least say, I gave her the response, I don't believe it. But no, now we have lawyers, sadly, some lawyers, I would say, no, not all of you, I still want to go here. Having some friends argue better before the YouTubers outside than in court. ये वो, so but why they won't say these things, and वहाँ उनको जैसी case खत्म हुआ, which is again a violation of the code of conduct of lawyers. Lawyers cannot talk about their cases. Another lawyer can, that lawyer can't. But yeah, seems to be, I think the rule book has been thrown out. The code of conduct of lawyers is not being followed. It must be followed. You cannot talk about your code. It's your code. Change the code and say, we can, but at least abide by your own code. So the code prohibits you from talking. And I remember when I was heading the Memo Commission, assisted with me was Justice Iqbal Hamidur Rahman Sahab and Justice Mushir Alam Sahab, but I was the chairman of that commission. And one of the lawyers who's passed away went and said it, and I told him, you can't do that, and I referred to the rule, and he said, but so-and-so lawyer did it. I said, but he's not a party here. So just reminding people for what they have forgotten. Our profession is a great profession as long as we are professionals. And the same, we expect professionalism from lawyers, and you should expect professionalism from judges as well. Maybe I should, you said सारा criticism हमारी तरफ हो गया, थोड़ा इधर भी कर देते हैं. I would request on your behalf now, if you all give me a wakalatnama, then please at least sit till 1:30. And if you finish every day, there can be a day when the day collapses, there are too many adjournments or whatever reason, then that means you are not getting enough cases fixed before you. So I am now pleading to, since I'm in no man's land, I'm pleading to the judges that sit at least till the designated court time. Yes, in my court also sometimes too many adjournments or we finish the matters and it's over. The other thing which I would request on your behalf is Friday is not a half working day and Saturday is a judgment writing day. So whether it is done or not done, you are better judges of that. Judgment should also be written within a reasonable time. Within a reasonable time. We should not sit on the pedestal and reprimand a civil judge and a high court judge for not doing so and forget about a judgment which is lying with us. And they have far more work to do than we do. If you can't, then finish your earlier work and do that work. But do that work. I try to dictate all my orders in court. Very few I have reserved. And I want to let you into a little secret. There is a secret room in the Supreme Court. I don't think any of you know it. I've only learned of it now. What is a secret room? This secret room is for those judges who have retired, including Chief Justices, to attend to the pending judgments and orders which they had not written or announced. These, inshallah, I still have 2 orders to write. I will not be availing of the secret room which is there in the Supreme Court. So I have disclosed a secret, and so that I create some difficulties for my colleagues on the bench. I will just now conclude with thanking all of you for honoring me, and want to thank my distinguished colleagues for helping me. We have had disagreements, but the way things are projected sometimes in the media as if we are having fights or something. Disagreements is something healthy. You agree. I sat on a bench. I won't know which way my colleagues on my left or my right would decide cases. And that's the beauty of the system. And we should all try to emulate Justice Yahya Afridi. You have a great judge, Chief Justice, for the future. We have all great expectations from him. And कम से कम एक बात तो पता नहीं होगी आपको, फैसला क्या होगा. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir,